In 1992, a young filmmaker named Robert Rodriguez changed the industry forever. He made a movie called El Mariachi for a legendary $7,000, most of which he earned by volunteering for clinical medical trials. It was a miracle of DIY cinema that proved you didn't need a studio to tell a story. But then came 1995. Hollywood handed him $7 million, 1,000 times his original budget, and told him to do it again, but bigger. The result was Desperado, a high-octane neo-Western action flick that essentially redefined the cool of the 90s. The plot picks up with our brooding hero, the Mariachi, who is now a man on a warpath. Haunted by the loss of his lover and the mutilation of his guitar-playing hand, he arrives in a dusty Mexican border town seeking bloody revenge against the drug lord Bucho. Armed with a guitar case full of weaponry and aided by a beautiful bookstore owner named Carolina, it's a stylized, bullet-riddled quest for closure that turned Antonio Banderas into a global superstar and introduced the world to Salma Hayek. Today on Quintessential Screen, we're looking past the muzzle flashes and the leather jackets. From secret family connections to backward special effects, here are 12 weird facts you didn't know about the making of Desperado. Number 1. The guitar case. Reverse. Hack. Robert Rodriguez is the king of low-budget thinking, even when he has a studio budget. He famously calls his style rebel without a crew, and that mindset saved the production thousands in special effects. To film those iconic rocket-launching guitar cases used by Campa and Kino, he didn't use expensive digital triggers or high-end pyrotechnics. He used gravity and a fishing line. He placed the rockets, which were actually light prop shells, inside the case and used wires to pull them backward into the case. By simply reversing the footage in the editing room, it created the illusion of a perfect high-velocity launch. This in-camera trickery is a hallmark of Rodriguez's style, finding the simplest physical solution to a complex visual problem. Number 2. Tarantino's blood-stained souvenir. We all know the bar joke. Quentin Tarantino's cameo is legendary for its length and its punchline, but his involvement went beyond just acting. Tarantino was a huge fan of Rodriguez's work and wanted to experience the Rodriguez style firsthand. Tarantino was particularly obsessed with the technical side of his own character's death. To achieve the exploding head look, Rodriguez used a squib, a tiny explosive charge, placed on a plate on Tarantino's forehead and covered with fake blood. Most actors find squibs uncomfortable and nerve-wracking, but Quentin was so giddy about the process that he reportedly refused to clean his face for a while after the take. He even kept the blood-spattered shirt as a personal trophy, considering it a badge of honor from his friend's set. Number 3. The discovery of Salma Hayek. It's hard to imagine anyone else as Carolina, but Salma Hayek was almost a missed connection for American audiences. Rodriguez discovered her while he was flipping channels and saw her on a Spanish-language talk show. At the time, she was a massive telenovela star in Mexico, but she was struggling to break into Hollywood because, in the early 90s, roles for Latina actresses were largely limited to maid or gang member stereotypes. Rodriguez was so struck by her intelligence and screen presence that he didn't just cast her, he essentially fought the studio to keep her. He rewrote the role of the fiery, independent bookstore owner specifically to fit her persona. This role didn't just make her a star, it proved to Hollywood that a Latina lead could carry a massive action blockbuster. Number 4. Why Buscemi is just Buscemi. Steve Buscemi plays the quintessential storyteller who sets the entire mythic tone of the movie in the opening scene. In the original script, his character didn't have a cool outlaw name like Bucho or Navajas. In fact, he didn't have a name at all. Rodriguez realized during pre-production that Steve Buscemi has such a distinct, iconic face and persona that no matter what he named the character, the audience was just going to lean over to their friend and say, "Hey, that's Steve Buscemi." Embracing the meta nature of the film, he officially named the character Buscemi. It's a rare moment where an actor's real-world identity is so powerful, it actually becomes canon within the fictional universe. Number 5. Banderas and the guitar dub. Antonio Banderas went full method for his Hollywood action debut. He performed almost all of his own stunts, including that terrifying slide down the building front, but he also dedicated months to learning the guitar. He wanted to ensure his hand movements were authentic to a master player. However, while Antonio's finger positioning is technically accurate in the film, the actual sound you hear is a different story. To give the film its specific Chicano rock soul, the music was dubbed over by the legendary East LA band Los Lobos. This created a unique hybrid. You're seeing Banderas' passion and physical acting, but you're hearing the Grammy-winning mastery of Los Lobos, creating a soundscape that defined the entire Mexico trilogy. Number 6, the 24-hour romance scene. The chemistry between Banderas and Hayek is often cited as some of the best in action history, but behind the scenes, it was a test of endurance and nerves. For Salma Hayek, this was her first major English-speaking production and her first time filming an intimacy scene. She has since spoken openly about how terrified she was, even crying on set due to the pressure. Rodriguez, being a close friend and protective director, took drastic measures to make her comfortable. He cleared the set of all non-essential personnel, leaving only himself and the skeleton crew. He also played loud music on set to drown out the awkward silence of the room. The scene took a grueling 24-hour day of filming to get right, but that dedication resulted in a sequence that felt genuine and respectful, rather than exploitative. Number 7, the secret cousin connection. This film birthed one of the most prolific partnerships in cinema, Rodriguez and Danny Trejo, but the way it happened is straight out of a movie. While filming in the small town of Ciudad Acuña, Trejo, playing the silent assassin Navajas, was surrounded by locals who thought he looked familiar. Rodriguez and Trejo started comparing notes on their family history and realized they weren't just colleagues, they were second cousins. Trejo's character has 0 lines of dialogue in the film, relying entirely on his intimidating physique and his skill with throwing knives. But this family discovery cemented a bond that has seen them collaborate on over a dozen films since. Number 8, the one-man crew mentality. Most directors who get a $7 million budget immediately hire a massive crew to handle the technical heavy lifting. Robert Rodriguez did the opposite. He used the money to buy better toys, but kept the jobs for himself. He served as his own director of photography, cinematographer, and his own editor. He famously wore the Steadicam rig himself, a heavy, physically demanding piece of equipment, because he wanted to feel the rhythm of the action as he shot it. This DIY one-man crew approach is why Desperado feels so much more kinetic and personal than the polished, sterile action movies of the mid-90s. It's a $7 million movie with the soul of a $7,000 indie. Number 9, Carlos Santana's spirit. While the legendary Carlos Santana doesn't actually appear in the movie, his presence is felt in every frame. Rodriguez originally reached out to Santana for a role, but the musician's touring schedule made it impossible. However, the influence didn't stop there. Rodriguez wanted the film's score to sound exactly like a Santana fever dream. He worked closely with the composers to ensure the distorted Latin blues sound was front and center. The goal was to bridge the gap between traditional Mexican folk and American rock and roll, essentially creating a sonic western that reflected the lead character's dual nature as both a musician and a killer. Number 10, superglue and rubber guns. In the world of Desperado, speed is everything. To help the actors move faster during the intense gunfight choreography, Rodriguez utilized lightweight rubber prop guns for any scene where the guns weren't actually being fired. Real firearms are heavy and can slow down the flick of the wrist moves Banderas was performing. The problem? Antonio Banderas was too good at the quick draw. He would whip the rubber guns out of his holsters with such incredible force that the barrels would often snap clean off. The production actually had a dedicated superglue station where crew members would frantically piece the rubber guns back together between takes. It's a funny reminder that sometimes an actor can be too action-ready for their own props. Number 11, the multiverse Mariachi. Robert Rodriguez is a fiercely loyal director. Even though he had to cast a bigger star like Banderas for the sequel to satisfy the studio, he didn't want to cast aside the man who helped him start it all. Carlos Gallardo, the original star of El Mariachi, was brought back for the sequel in a new role. He plays Campa, one of the Mariachi's 2 brothers-in-arms who show up for the final showdown with the specialized guitar cases. By having the old Mariachi and the new Mariachi fighting side by side, Rodriguez created a silent passing of the torch. It was a nod to the fans of the original $7,000 film, acknowledging that without Gallardo's initial performance, the $7 million sequel wouldn't exist. Number 12, a tribute to Raul Julia. Finally, we have a bittersweet fact that changed the tone of the movie's villain. The role of Bucho, the ruthless drug lord, was originally written specifically for the legendary Raul Julia, famous for his role as Gomez Adams. Rodriguez was a massive fan and wanted Julia's theatrical, larger-than-life energy for the film's primary antagonist. Tragically, Julia's health declined rapidly due to a stroke and cancer, and he passed away before production could begin. Joaquim de Almeida stepped in and delivered a chilling, more grounded performance that worked perfectly, but the what if of Raul Julia's version remains a fascinating piece of cinema history. If you watch the closing credits, you'll see a simple, heartfelt dedication in memory of Raul Julia, the legacy of the Mariachi. Desperado wasn't just a hit, it was a proof of concept. It proved that you don't need a $100 million budget or a massive studio machine to make a movie that feels like a global blockbuster. What you need is a guitar case, some super glue, and a massive amount of man cave ingenuity. This film acted as the ultimate bridge between the raw, guerrilla energy of El Mariachi and the operatic, star-studded scale of the final chapter, Once Upon a Time in Mexico. It sits in that perfect sweet spot of 90s cinema, where the action was practical, the blood was bright red, and the stars had enough charisma to burn the film strip. It's the movie that taught an entire generation of indie filmmakers that limitations are just opportunities for creative solutions. Whether it was reversing footage to save on pyrotechnics, or casting family members to keep the set vibe authentic, Rodriguez showed us that the soul of a movie is found in its fingerprints, not its receipts. It transformed Banderas from a Spanish heartthrob into an American action icon and gave Salma Hayek the platform she needed to shatter Hollywood's glass ceiling for Latina actresses. Decades later, the film's bluesy, distorted grit still feels fresh, serving as a reminder of a time when the Western was reborn in a hail of bullets and nylon string guitar riffs. Which of these facts surprised you the most? Did you know about the secret family tree on set, or were you too busy watching Banderas flip those pistols? Let us know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your favorite memories of seeing this for the first time. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Quintessential Screen for more deep dives into the films that defined our childhoods and our collections. I'm your host, and this has been another look at the classics. We'll see you at the next showing.